Nick, I want to thank you so much for attending this year's Moments of Change conference here in Palm Beach.
You're welcome. It was really a lot of fun.
You know, it's always exciting when we have somebody of your caliber come and challenge our industry. And I just wish that we could have had the room with 10,000 people in it this year. But when you started off your talk, 4 pillars of behavioral health success, I think it really touched a lot of people in the audience. When you talk about we have to demand, not just ask, but demand for the best technology, to have a digital strategy, the patient experience design, and leveraging our economic models. And I was wondering if you would take just a moment just to elaborate on that patient experience design piece, because you talk about some of these punitive measures that we put in our patients, and I think that really does negatively impact the behavioral health industry.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, essentially healthcare has become a consumer packaged good. Right? Consumers are incredibly savvy, and they have a tremendous level of expectation. And if we deliver below their baseline level of expectation, we don't get to compete favorably. And one of the challenges that I have when I try to share these ideas with people is that they operate from the erroneous assumption that if we deliver good clinical care, then we get to win. And that looking at the ugly underbelly of the business side of what we do is somehow indignant. But the truth of the matter is, as I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, is that in order for us to deliver care to as many families as possible, we have to realize the fact that we have to consumerize and sort of weaponize the way in which we engage those patients. So patient experience design is really exciting. It's about how we get more granular about the way in which we identify the very patients that we serve, so we can drive compliance and better, beautiful moments for them so that they tend to want to do what we want them to do to help them out. The other thing is that when we get real granular about the way in which we look at each of those touch points, these various moments in which they engage us, from the pre-touch moment to that very first moment, to the core experience, to the last touch, and even the way in which we authentically stay in touch with them after treatment is so important in order to develop the kind of businesses that are going to serve as many families as possible.
I think when we think about so much activity being done on the web now, and you had a couple statistics that like 97% of people are on the web, and we certainly see that in our business. A lot of people get confused with that transaction of a search and how it translates into what we call a transformational moment through that patient experience. And so I think that your comments today were just really right on target for us.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people assume if they have a website and some social channels that they're killing it in the digital universe. But if we want to serve families, we have to be there and we have to be relevant. Most organizations in behavioral health, from just the research that we saw, were really not there. They didn't do very well. There was a very small handful that tend to occupy the beginning of search results or even micro search results. And that's unfortunate, because everybody should have the opportunity to be at least there. Then the challenge is that we have to sort of change our principal philosophy about our digital strategies. It shouldn't be a brochure. It shouldn't be about selling anything. The purpose of our websites are really value dispensers. And if we can really provide gratuitous and meaningful value to a range of customers during that pre-touch moment, because again, 97% of the time, they're going to look for us using some connected device. We need to be there and we need to be relevant. Most organizations, unfortunately, really aren't.
When you said the word brochure, I kind of cringed, because we went through this situation over the last 5 or 6 years with our kind of our print strategy, and we read a book called Brains on Fire, and they were advocates that a lot of brochures today are just really pretty garbage.
Right.
And I still see that in our industry. Everybody wants to hand you these old documents, and they don't look at it as a value dispenser.
Right. Well, with a lot of our clients, we help them position themselves as thought leaders. So we help them develop books, real books that are selling on Amazon that are 180 pages. So if you really want to help somebody for the cost of a brochure, you can be the thought leader on the 10 things you need to know about behavioral health or whatever the topic is, right? And that's gratuitous value. That's value that they get prior to that first touch moment that hopefully allows you to earn their interest in wanting to do more for you. Jay Baer wrote a great book called Utility, where he talks about content marketing and its impact on how we drive patients to our practices so that we can serve them. And I think he does a great job of explaining that we want to give them things that are so valuable that they would be willing to pay for it. That's what we really have to think about as we're building out our digital properties.
As we were preparing for this interview, we were talking a little bit about innovators. And I see that, the team that we have a lot of millennials, and they are changing the world.
Yeah.
And I worry, though, about kind of this middle level person who is kind of potentially stuck in a big bureaucracy. And I wonder, how do we encourage systems within our companies to reward, innovation?
One way to do that, and a lot of organizations have done it. In fact, 80% of the Fortune 2000 companies have a thing called enterprise social networks, ESNs. And these ESNs are powered with games and with social contact. So it's very much like an internal Facebook. And these games that they build out on these enterprise social networks allow everybody, including millennials, to find ways to collaborate and to co-create. In other words, leaders need to associate pain with the status quo and pleasure with innovation. But we create risk-centric enterprises that punish the innovators and reward the status quo. This is something that has to change at the highest level of leadership, and they have to communicate it, and they have to make it a part of the enterprise DNA.
You mentioned toward the end of your talk this morning that you have a new book coming out, and I wonder if you would close us out maybe with just a little snippet that we know what to expect from you.
Sure. Well, I've spent my life inventing technologies, and spending 3 years researching how to reinvent human experiences was what this book was all about. And the name of the book is What Customers Crave. Its official publication date is October 13th, but I understand it's on Amazon right now. And the idea of the book is to really look at the body of research to show how you can grow your practice while at the same time improving the quality of work life in your practice, while at the same time delivering beautiful, beautiful patient experiences. And that's really what the book message is all about. And in fact, you can down a free chapter copy at whatcustomerscrave.com. It kind of frames up the book.
Great. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate your challenge to our industry today, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.